want to know more. We are hungry for more. We are curious, always searching for the truth. Great minds, come let us reason together. Great minds, come let us reason together. Come let us reason. Great minds, come let us reason together. Great minds, come let us reason.
Great minds. Welcome back to the Young Adult Girl Talk Zone, a place where great minds meet to talk about real issues in today's Christian society. Great minds, we open this show today in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen, amen. Listen, I have missed you guys. We are back again, better than ever. Today's episode is going to be fire, crackers, a whole bunch of just noise, boom, 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 all over the place. So prepare yourself, great minds. If you are tuning in for the first time, welcome, and thank you so much for tuning in with us. And for all of our great minds out there, please tell a friend, tell a brother, a sister that the show is live, and you do not want to miss today's episode, do you, Tina?
No, you don't. You really don't want to miss today's episode. Today's going to be amazing. And we do have great panelists joining us today. We have students, we have professors. We're going to talk about school stuff. And I know a lot of parents, a lot of students are not really ready for school. I am so ready. I know we are going to talk about college stuff, but I am ready for the kids to go back to school. I don't know about you. I am ready so I can have some quietness, a little quietness for a couple of hours during the day. So I am excited. We are talking about school stuff. So back to you, buddy.
Thank you. Oh my goodness, we're talking about school stuff. Listen, I'm torn. So I'm technically ready for them to go back, but I don't want to be the one to physically take them, right? So if I can find somebody to just drop them off and pick them up, it's a deal. But guys, today we have a great panel with us today to help us talk through this very hot topic of school stuff. Okay, so there's a bunch of things that we're going to go through when it comes to college, when it comes to education, some of the challenges we face. So definitely this is a seasoned topic for you guys, given that a lot of our college students just went back this past weekend or preparing to go back. So I'm going to introduce our panel, and then I'm going to have a quick icebreaker for them just to warm things up. I know you guys have missed my icebreakers so much. So of course, and then, you know, I have people already smiling, even though it looks like they're rolling their eyes. They're not. It's really a smile. But listen, guys, we have an amazing panel today. We kept it simple. We kept it short just because we have so much to get through and we want to make sure we tackle it all. So, of course, back on the other seat, because she is a divine woman and she can sit in any seat she wants. Yeah. Some days she hosts, some days she panels. She does whatever she wants. We have the famous Miss Albie in the house today with us, guys. Albie, welcome to Great Minds as a panelist today.
I know, as a panelist.
We are happy to have you. And you're wearing my favorite color, so you look lovely as always, lady in pink.
Thank you.
And then, of course, we had to mix it up a little bit, guys. So we can't just have all the ladies take over, because you already know I would like have all the ladies take over. But we had to bring some male power into the house. So we pulled very far. This one, I have to send a whole stipend and a whole, like, you know, back in the day when you do like the little letters that you send on a horse and it like delivers it. That's how hard I have to go to get this guy. Okay, we have Brandon in the house to bless us today. Brandon, welcome to Great Minds.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Awesome. We are excited to have you and we're ready to dive in. And guys, last but definitely not least, I have this lovely doctor in the house, this professor, this woman of power. She's of education and she is ready to school us today on so many levels. None other than Miss Veronica is here with us today. Hi, beautiful. Welcome to Great Minds. We are super excited to have you. All right, guys. So with the panel, We always have to get you guys warmed up and ready to go. So before I give it back to Justina, we're going to jump right into our icebreaker. And because we're talking about school, everybody wants to know this question. You know, great minds, we want to get up in your business, but not like too far deep in your business, just on the surface. So we all want to know, because we already know some of you did not always go to class like you were supposed to, and you probably So Brandon, since you are on campus right now, we want to know how many times have you skipped class, and what did you skip class to do? Like, exactly what were you doing? Like, what would we pay for your education for?
Let's see. Because in like kindergarten through 12th grade, I never skipped classes. Like even on senior skip day, I was at school. I don't want anybody to be like, oh, go be a role model for your children. No, it was just, I didn't have anything to do. But in college, I would say, I think the only time I skipped class was to prepare for like a show / presentation I was in.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Nice. What was the show? What was the show?
So it was actually for my former fraternity, but
see, we're about to get into it. What? They got you skipping classes. See, this is exactly why we're doing this show. Skipping classes. Nah. Okay, Brandon, thank you for sharing. Sister Albie, what about you, hon? Tell me the last time you skipped class, and don't tell me it wasn't recent.
You know what? I am one of the most serious students you ever meet. I
believe it.
Yeah, so I'm always in class on time. Sitting yes.
Oh, wow.
You are awesome, girl.
Excellence. Wherever I find myself.
Even when class was on Zoom, I was skipping class. Like I skipped class this past weekend because I was not trying to be bothered.
Talking about Zoom. So last year, my class was on Zoom. No, it was 2 years ago. I was pregnant. And then I was on the couch, like not fully dressed properly, right? My class was on Zoom. My camera was off, and I was dozing up. By the time I realized Denzel had turned on my camera.
You see?
Say.
Yeah.
This is why these kids.
It was like the first day of class, so nobody said nothing.
This is why these kids gotta go back to school. Yeah. They gotta go back to school. They can't stay at home. They can do anything but stay at home. Veronica, last but not least, hon, I would be very interested to see Professor. Like, when was the last time you skipped class? I'm just curious.
You know, the days, when I was in a PhD program and, most of the classes, because of the COVID, what's happening on Zoom. And, this professor, she's like, you don't have to turn on your camera. I just log on and I'm going. Probably I didn't have enough sleep the night before, so I just log on, have my camera, I'm muted, my camera is off, and then I pretend as if I'm actually part of the class. But trust me, I'm not really that. So Professor have also had her days of being a bad student. Yeah.
Professors do get tired. They do get tired.
Yes, they do.
I love that. I love that you said that because those are my favorite classes. And they're like, you don't have to turn your camera on. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm here every day, present and early. But you know what? I'm not gonna ask Justina because she's such a serious student. She's gonna bore all of us. With like, she goes to class when class is being canceled. You cancel class and she still show up.
Listen,
like
Zoom. I was actually cooking whilst taking my classes because you really don't have to turn on your camera.
I mean, now you gotta try all of that. Try all of that in Ghana. Try all of that in Ghana and see what happens. American school system. It's destroyed everybody. Okay, let's get into today's topic. I'm super excited. Justina, what are we talking about today so we can jump into it?
What are we not talking about? What are we talking about? Our topic for today is Schoolnomics. And only the justice can come up with these kind of topics, okay? He's the only person allowed to come up with these kind of topics, Schoolnomics. So today's show will explore practical strategies for Christian students to harmonize or balance the demands of academic, social life, and most importantly, their relationship with Jesus Christ. So before we dive into it, The following conversation is not tied to any specific church, but are focused on the Christian society as a whole. So that's what I'm talking about. Schoolnomics.
Wow. I feel like more than ever, today's disclaimer is so oriented. We said it, guys. We are just talking about it generally in the whole. But this is powerful. Schoolnomics, right? It makes me think of so many different things. And I know all of you have so many different backgrounds, so many different stories that you want to share. So we want to actually start off. We want to get to know a little bit about each person. Because I know Brandon, when he was speaking, he skipped class for fraternity or so forth he mentioned. I'm kind of curious to learn a little bit more about that because we already know within our community that's such a thing right now. So we want to address some of those. We want to hear from him. And then even Professor, with you, Albie just graduated recently. I want to kind of give everybody a minute. So Dr. Veronica, let me start with you. If you can just kind of give us a bit of a perspective of your background, what in like maybe 1 to 2 minutes, right? Like, what has your experience been on campus? What has your experience been with school? What are just like your overall background when we say just the whole entire Schoolnomics all together? Just tell us a little bit about your background, and then we'll jump in and have Brandon chime in before we hear from Albie.
Okay, so I want to know my background as a student or as a professor or a mixture.
I want a little bit of both.
A little bit of both, right? Okay, so I would say that I went to school from my my elementary all the way to college in Ghana, right? And then I came here for my graduate degree, which is my master's, and then my PhD. And basically, that has been my experience all along, being here as an international student, trying to navigate myself to where I am today as a professor, as an assistant professor here at Winthrop University at Rock Hill, South Carolina. And let me say a little bit about being a professor at school. It's basically still more or less like being a student because you still get up every day to read, to prep for class. But then this time you're at the other side of it, being a professor, and then you having students to deal with, and not being a student and being dealt with by somebody else. So that has been relatively my experience and navigating through this new space as a professor.
I love that. I love that you gave us that because I think I'm sorry. I think that we're getting a little feedback, so we'll have our participants just kind of mute and unmute as they're talking, just to make it a little bit easier so you guys can hear us. Because I see the chat is already live and ready. I'm not going to call out any of the skippers in the chat that are commenting. I'm just going to leave them alone. But I love that you mentioned that, because that's kind of what we want to get into. People don't understand the challenges you face even as a student, and then it's even nice to see it from a perspective, a professor's point of view, because oftentimes we blame our professors for everything. Listen, everything. That A-, I am not over it. Like, I would never get over it. But you know what I mean? Like, we blame them for it all. So I love that you give us that dynamic. Brandon, I'm going to come to you before I go to my sis Albie, because I want to also kind of hear a little bit more from a student's perspective, guys. I want to hear more about your background, especially within this kind of discovery space of fraternities, sororities. We hear so much of that. If you can just give us a short version of it, and then we'll kind of jump right into our discussion today.
For sure. Let's see. So I go to the University of Virginia. I'm a fourth year here studying neuroscience, but more importantly, when I first got to school, my biggest thing was trying to kind of like find my community and either find or build one. And I found a lot of my friendships and like bonds being formed in like the strong Black community here. And so I would say like my background was a lot of like trying to determine how to kind of become more known in that community, and from hopefully a place of genuine like love for the community, because every week I attempt to like volunteer at different centers and things like that. But I would say that was generally where, or what I was looking at when I first got to school.
I love that. Tina, this keeps coming up, a sense of belonging, right? And I think even when Veronica was talking, she mentioned something similar. And this is where a lot of our students, a lot of our great minds, young adults out there watching, this is where we kind of sometimes stray and get into trouble. Because when you get on campus, it is very scary day one. I've been there, you know, when my parents dropped me off at UNCG, I'm like, where are you going? Like, wait, like you're leaving me here and you're leaving? You know, it's like this scary thing where it's like you're truly by yourself. So this sense of belonging or wanting to attach to something is so important. Albie, what about your background? Tell us a little bit about your side. And I'm sorry, Albie, you're still muted, love.
I'm sorry. Yes, this is interesting because I think that my educational journey has evolved, right? From this amateur who went to grad school for the first time and did not really know what I was about, to having been a student who has to advocate for herself and stand up to a professor because I thought she was treating me fairly and she was trying to categorize me into a place where I do not belong. So that was the first time that I found my voice. I was like, hey, no, you don't know who you're messing with, but this is no, it's not gonna happen. To evolving to somebody who is more mature, right? And now taking courses and looking at it from a different perspective, knowing that hey, the system, I am here for a reason, right? And so when I look back from my first graduate degree in Ohio, Akron then, and then now to my just ended graduate degree, I see that at UNC, I made more impact. I was involved in a lot of committees, right? I entered more rooms. I was more daring because I was more mature and I just didn't see myself as a student, right? But I saw myself as somebody who is here to learn and also teach others and make impact. So, yeah.
I love that. Oh my goodness.
That's
I love
amazing.
that. Yeah.
That's
No,
amazing. I was thinking, listening to all these, advocating for yourself, being in the room. I remember when I started college, I didn't do all of that. My mindset was, I'm just going to school, go to class, get it done, and you are out. Not till later I realized you have to be part of, not really have to be part of a group, but have to advocate for yourself. So Abby, let me come back to you with advocate and then being there and also having a voice. How were you able to navigate? Because I know Patty mentioned there's a little fear when you start college, right? When you first start college, depending on the age that you go to school. So let's say I'm 18-year-old, because when I went to school, I wasn't 18. When I went to college, I was a little older. So that maturity was different from somebody going to college for the first time at the age of 18 or 19. What advice will you give to a new freshman who is 18, 19, going to college with fear of not knowing what to do? Like you say, you were able to speak for yourself. You were able to, advocate, stand up for yourself. What advice would you give to a student?
Yeah, so one thing I always tell people I meet or students that I meet is that the first day you enter class, you are writing your story. And if you don't portray yourself well, somebody else will write that story for you. That's why I tell people all the time that don't be that student that your professor does not know. No, when you go to class, make sure that your professor knows you are their student, because these professors, they talk amongst themselves, right? And one day you are going to need somebody to speak up for you. And when you enter into school, not only just like when you go to networking events, school is also a networking place, because you're going to need professors who you would refer to for reference and all other stuff. There may be times that things may happen and it may not be your fault, right? You may miss an exam, you may miss a deadline, but if you are that student who is not writing a good story for yourself, then it will be very hard, because guess what? Somebody is going to write that story for you. And people have different perceptions about people. Somebody may see you and just categorize you as not serious, probably not because you have done anything wrong, but people just like to perceive people in their own eyes. So one advice I always give to students is that write a good story for yourself. And if you feel like that story they are writing about you is not what it is, go to them and let them write a good story. I remember I had this professor, I just felt like the man used to intimidate me. Like I'm literally going to class and I'm shaking. And in my heart of hearts, I felt like he did not like me. Because unfortunately for me, when I took his class, and this is a graduate class, I was heavily pregnant and I didn't really understand his course. Like it was a lot of work. So I was not necessarily meeting his expectations, right? But knowing what I know and know one thing about me, listen, I'm not going to let you write a bad story about me. I walked up to him one time and I was like, you know what? I'm going to be great. I may not look like it right now. It's because I'm struggling, like I'm pregnant and I'm struggling, but I'm going to be great. So I want you to be part of my success story. So would you give me a chance to prove to you that I can be great? And he did not really say it. I'm sure he was shocked. But this is something that he didn't say anything then, but maybe like a month later, he saw me and he was like, you know what? If you need a letter of recommendation, I'm going to write you one. I did not
Wow.
ask him. And I'm talking about this, a white male who when you read his syllabus, you'll be intimidated. He's like, if you don't get an A in my class, like to get a reference letter is getting an A is the minimum requirement for getting a reference from him.
Yeah.
That's the minimum requirement. And he'll tell you it's at his discretion. And just by me making this bold statement to him, he offered something that I did not ask. And now he's my best friend. He can just email me and check on me.
Wow.
So yes, open this your mouth.
Yeah.
And talk. Advocate for yourself.
Yes.
Nobody's gonna do that for you.
That is
Yep.
boldness. Write your story. I love that. That is so
Yeah.
that is so bold. I mean, I don't think I'll ever do that. But that is really bold. I mean, taking matters into your own hands and knowing, like you said, writing your story instead of somebody else writing it for you. That is bold. I mean, kudos, Abby. Kudos. Really, that's really good. Back to you.
100%. And then I think we wrote it down in the chat. I have that great nugget from Justice. The first day you enter class, you're writing your story. Albie, you just gave us gold, diamonds dropping from the sky. That is so true, because I think as students, even to get into kind of switch it up a little bit and to come to you, Brandon, and kind of get into like this phase of trying to find something to belong to. That's where it's all coming from. It's like we don't understand what we mean by from day one you're writing your story. The fact that you have this urge and this sense of belonging, if you're not careful, and even today, right? Today's preaching was about being careful, being cautious, and really and letting God lead you instead of you leading yourself, following your feelings. And as young people, I think one of the biggest thing is you have this sense of, I want to belong. I want to be a part of this group. That's you thinking. That's yourself, right? And it can literally pull you into a space where you're friends with people that you normally know you want to be friends with. You're compromising on things you would not compromise. And even with the professors, you can find yourself in very crazy situations where you would not do that. But because you are not cautious of this writing your story component and this sense of belonging, it becomes very, very tricky. Brandon, can you help me kind of journey through that piece there? Because I know you mentioned your ex-affiliation, right? You mentioned the fraternity world that you were kind of affiliated. Like, can you just give me like a high level, like how we arrived at that doorstep? Just really high level, and then we'll go into more questions.
Okay. I just want to start with, that was a great point, Albie, as well, with the writing your story. I was thinking, especially about the question, because it was an amazing question about the idea of feeling uncomfortable when you first get onto campus. And I think that's actually a really good place to start, because when you come to college, you immediately realize this is not like high school. This is not like middle school. This is not like elementary school.
Definitely.
It's a place where you have to be like open to healthy change. And I emphasize that because healthy change is not like Patty was saying, compromising on your morals and compromising for different things, but it's being open to maybe experiences that you've never seen before. And I guess to go through and get to kind of my affiliation, I would say when I first came on, um, we call it grounds. So we call campus grounds. I might switch between, we'll see. But when I first came on grounds, I was really big on trying to put myself into everything so that I could see what stuck. My sister forced me to join Pensa because she was the then president, and I would always be there. And after the first 2 weeks, I stopped being forced. I used to be like, "Is it this week or is it next week?" I was so excited to go. Then she graduated, and she was like, "I'm gonna leave the presidency to you," and so um for a long time, because I think this touches into maybe a future topic, but like for a while, I'd looked at different organizations. I hadn't known much about it coming from a African background, but I knew that they had a certain status with them. And so when I became the president of my Pence organization, I was like, a lot of students on grounds are Black Christians. There are a lot of Black Christians here, but these Black Christians aren't in fellowships. And I wanted to find a way that could put me in the spotlight so that I could then promote Pensa and the Word of God and to honestly just bring everybody together. And so that's kind of the motivation that then drove me into pursuing one of these organizations. But yeah.
I love that. I love that because that's exactly how it happens when you're on campus, right? Because I've lived that campus life. I know exactly what you're saying. You see kind of a space where you're still trying to figure out your sense of belonging, right? So you know that you have that spiritual background. You see there's a need, but I think the hardest thing is the navigation, Brandon, that you just spoke about. You know, like navigating the right way and making sure that I want to achieve this goal. I want to bring God and all these people together. Maybe a fraternity or sorority will help me do that because I'm doing the work of God. And we'll get into that because these fraternities don't position themselves like it's not related to God. You know what I mean? It's positioned in a very, very strategic manner. So we'll get into that. But Veronica, I kind of want to come back to you and then I'll kick it to you, Justina, for a second. Just listening to everything that's going on when you were, because when you were a student before now that you're a professor, right? It was a different dynamic. But as a professor, do you see the students when they come in? Like, do you see this dialogue of like a sense of belonging? Like, I'm trying to figure out what I want to do. Like, how is your perspective for that?
Yeah, thanks for that question. I kind of want to touch on what I'll be and then what's the name again? Brandon just talked about. When you get to campus, most of it, especially in your first year, I started school here as a graduate student, and even with that, I was confused. So you get to a space that you realize that you are so confused. But then, you know, you have to be one thing that I always tell students, especially minorities and international students, you know. One thing that is very important, like Abby was saying, is to actually make sure that you gain that visibility, right? Don't just go to class and then that's it. Try and interact with your professors, talk to them. If you have any certain issues, you can even discuss it with them, right? In that way, that person you kind of register on the mind of that person, like your professors and whatnot. And also look for mentorship. I always say that sometimes you may come to college and be confused with even the classes that you have to take, where you want to find yourself, your career path, and all that. It is very important that you talk to your professors that this is what I intend doing. What do you suggest? What are some of the courses that you think is going to be helpful for me to take? And you know, when we come in, especially internationals and minority, brown, black like myself, we like to quail in classes. We just, you know, go to class and feel like, oh, I'm just doing what I'm supposed to do. But please and please, if you're a student here and you're listening to me, make sure that you gain that visibility. Let your professors know you. You know, you're going to need them at some point. their recommendation, speaking on your behalf, certain scholarships that is available, and they may, because you are registered on their mind, they can push it on your shoulder. Certain opportunities, certain doors can open for you just because you're a student who always, come around. Just it's okay to just knock on your professor's door and be like, "Hey, I'm just passing by. I want to say hi to you." And somebody like me, I always tell my students, "Hey, just come around, say hi to me. My door is always open. If you see that door is open, feel free to come in and then say hi to me," which is a good thing to do. And that's one thing that we don't really do as internationals. We
Yeah.
don't, and we like to quell it a lot. And I can understand that sense of belonging, even your accent alone, like I do have an accent, but you cannot. I always tell my students that you're gonna hear it, that accent, whether you like it or not. That's what I've got, and you're gonna enjoy it whether you like it or not. So um make sure that be intentional of where you want to find yourself, be intentional about gaining visibility, because you never know, there are so much opportunities that just drawing closer to your professor, they would close they will let you know about it, and you may take advantage of it. And that's how life is all about grabbing the opportunities that comes your way. Yeah.
That is great. Prob, let me. I have a follow up question. So talking about visibility and all that, do you see it? So among, I'm trying to put my thoughts together because I know going back to, I didn't do that when I started school. I was so afraid, like you mentioned, by your accent, where you come from. Do you see this mostly in like among foreigners where they call, they don't go to their professors, they don't ask questions. What should you mentioned? Go to your professors, their doors are open. What are those who are so shy? They don't even know how to navigate. They don't know what to do. What would you tell a student that don't know what to do on campus in
I
terms of finding their voice and all that?
I always tell students that, like you said, it's a very common thing, especially with first generation students, right? Who are the first people in their household to go to college. Their parents are not that enlightened to possibly guide them about, use their experiences to actually teach them one or two things, but they just go to college because, they're in college. They're also going to college and they don't have that mentorship or whatnot. Um, and like you said, very common among the international students and minorities. There are certain facilities possibly on campus that sometimes some minorities feel like if you're using it, um, there's a stigma attached to it. Oh, I'm not taking advantage of it. I don't want to be seen like that. Take, for instance, the Office of Accommodation, accessibility and accommodation. It doesn't mean that there's a problem with you if you think that you will need 2 hours for an exam that is meant for an hour, right? If an exam is an hour exam and then you know how you are, you have anxiety issues, whatnot, just go to the office accessibility, let them know that this is my problem. I can take this exams, within 2 hours. I'm pretty sure I can finish it within 2 hours. So take advantage of certain resources that are on campus. Don't feel like getting it is like, oh, I'm not a good student enough. No, you realize that most white students take advantage of some of these things, and you can know, sometimes that there are these students who look like myself who need these resources, but they are not taking it because they have a different perception about it. But it's just there for your good. It's there to help you. That is why these resources are made available. So go grab it, make good use of it, right? And then also seek for mentorship. I always say this, mentorship is everything. Don't just go to school and just be in it. You've been a student that that, oh, I don't really have somebody from home who is guiding me in in my, my college degree or whatnot. Like I said, go to your professors. There are some resources. There like a whole lot of resources on campus. Just go walk in and ask them about what 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 is this all about? What is the purpose of this office? I want to know. Is there something in here for me that can be helpful to me? These are all things that I am finding out, becoming, an instructor. When I was a student, I also used to be like that, used to quell, not ask a lot of questions, just come to class and that's it. But now that I am at the other side, and I see how our students actually struggle, especially minorities, people who look like me. Sometimes I intentionally draw close to them. And also, like I said, most first generation students sometimes are not motivated enough, right? They are less motivated because possibly like financial strain, the household that they're coming from, there is, that social support, that somebody making you feel that you can do it, you got this, you can make it happen. It's not really there. These students are, trying so hard to make it happen for themselves. It's like they're just on their own. But sometimes it can be tough, and you need somebody to tap you on your shoulder and let you know that you got this and you can do it. So, what I will always say to students is that go to your professors. First day in class, just walk to them. Hey, my name is this. My name is Veronica. I'm in your class. I am international. I am this. I am confused with whatever classes I'm taking. Can you help me with this? I want to pass by. We've got office hours. Come in and go talk to your professors, talk to them about whatever it is,
Whatever
anything
it
that it is that you feel comfortable sharing. Yeah,
is.
whatever it is that you feel very comfortable sharing with them. And trust me, sometimes they do have resources that they can direct you to that can be very helpful.
Oh my God, that's amazing. I wish I knew this when I was in college. But anyway, now I know. So whatever. All right. All right. Well, I'm not going back. I'm not going back. So all our college students who are going to school, studying school, please introduce yourself to your professors. From the professor's own mouth, please introduce yourself. If you are confused, Abby said start writing your story the first day of class. Introduce yourself to your professors. Start writing your story. Beautiful one. Brandon, when Brandon started talking, he said positive one as well. So let's start writing our stories from today. Introduce yourself to your professors. Brandon, let me come to you. When we started, you talked about feeling a sense of belonging. Why do you think, and then and that was the reason why you joined sororities and other. Why do you think that student join these kind of sororities, and what is it? What is it at all?
So yeah, when so I can only really speak to the National Pan Hellenic Council, also known as the NPHC. It also goes by the name Divine Nine, which is shortened to D9.
Mm,
But in my experience, well, even before I get to that, well, what they are, these are black fraternities and sororities that were really started with like a genuine purpose of, especially like the fact that when black students um were first allowed to come to college, they weren't allowed to join white fraternities and sororities. And so a lot of motivated black students at that time, especially in like the height of different civil rights movements and even maybe precursors to most of them, they came together and decided to form their own fraternities and sororities. And rather than basing them completely off of like partying, drinking, all these things, it was very much started with the intent to advance the black people and to like secure more rights and more, I guess, to truly just provide a way for like social upward mobility. And so that's where like the D9 started. And why do people join these organizations? So the oldest one is Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. It was founded in 1906. And realistically, like now that we're in 2024, there's over a century of networking opportunities. There are people who cross these organizations and are now big business people. So joining these organizations can allow you a like wealth of like social capital and people to talk to. When you're on campus, it provides you the status that I was talking about before. Some people just want the status to hold parties and be seem popular and cool and all those things. Other people genuinely join for the status to then be leaders in their community and to help out, as well as another big one is volunteering. That's another big thing that these organizations are that promote what they promote and encourage. So on the very like surface level, these organizations are very, I would say,
Good.
beneficial to society for a lack of terms. But as we see in Ephesians chapter 6, that we're not wrestling with the flesh and blood. We're not wrestling with surface level. We're wrestling with spirits and principalities. So I believe that, unbeknownst to a lot of people, there are deeper entrenched values and gods and things like that that lay under the surface that nobody really tells or sees. But yeah.
Right, right. And I think even just to kind of jump in there, Brandon, with that is so true. I think for me, college, right, my undergrad, that was the wake up call for me, because I found myself actually following a friend to the AKA meeting and had no idea that you can't go to multiple meetings, Patty, again, unbeknownst to me. So now all of a sudden it was a problem because the Deltas see that I'm at this meeting and it was like this thing. But I think for me, what you said is so powerful, because a lot of our people feel like it's, especially when you're somebody that's community service based, I want to help, I want to give back, I want to be a leader to impact positively. I think we overlook and we don't pay attention. And this is why, we have to be sensitive to the things of the spirit, right? We want to see through the eyes of God. We want to hear his voice ever so nearly, because exactly what you said, the underlining gods per se, like when you get there and you see, that's when you kind of see the visual of, like legit, this is like an elephant, right? Like this is like, Moses era, like this is a God in a way that they're worshiping, and that it becomes like an identity that you take on. So I think with that, my question for you, and then I'll pull Sister Albie in here, looking at just the potential impact, right? I think, luckily for me, I didn't go any further, because again, you can't go to multiple, you can't just be swimming around. Like, I'm going to go check out the Deltas and I'm going to check out these people, because I was so confused. I was like, what is this world? Like, what are y'all saying? Like, most of my friends are, AKAs. And honestly, to tell you the truth, as naive as it sounds, this is why a lot of our church girls end up there, because of what we think it represents. Because, for me in college, we thought the AKAs were just pretty girls that were pearls. And I was like, I like pearls, like, I like pink. That's my favorite color. So it's like you just follow because of these naive surface level things. You don't understand the deep rooting spiritual components that's attached to it. So would you recommend, like, what would you say for Christians, right? Because the show is really focused on Christianity as a whole. When it comes to Christians who choose to join sororities or fraternities, is that a path? You know what I mean? And this is opinionated, right, Brandon, from your side. And Sister Albie, I want to hear your perspective too before we kind of shift gears. But can you be truly standing for God and be a Christian and be indulged in this life at the same time?
That's a good question. Very involved. So in my personal like belief and where I've felt that God has led me, my very short answer is no. But I want to expand, because I know Fast Track 2 years ago, if you told me this, I would have turned off the podcast and walked away. Like it would. So I think very, very honestly, I believe very wholly in the scripture that states that we should test every spirit. And I think there's nothing as fulfilling as going to God yourself. I think there's a big idea that we see a lot of people harbor on the faith of another pastor who they know who's in these organizations, or harbor on the faith of a very Christian friend that they know who's in these organizations. And I think this is really a call where God's like, I want you to talk to me directly. And something that's very important for me, something that I felt that he revealed to me recently, was I was reading Isaiah in chapter 30. There was a specific verse that states that when we that essentially we rely on, I won't say, just to be quick because I won't go through all the context of the verse, but it states basically that when we depend on things that aren't of the Lord, when we go about getting help and assistance without consulting his spirit, we then place ourselves on a splintered staff. And at first, I didn't know what we were talking about. And then the imagery really set into place that when you really lean onto even a plank with splinters on it, you're going to end up hurting yourself.
Yeah.
And God's calling us to depend on him rather than these things that he's already clearly seen can't bear the weight. And so that's a really big reason why I then just say dive into your word for yourself, because I could tell you 27 reasons why you shouldn't join these organizations, but it's really about what God touches your heart with. But yeah.
Amen.
I know.
Amen. Albie, let me pull you in, Tina, then I'll give it to you. Because Albie, I mean, we all face different challenges as students. That right there, what Brandon is talking about, is like the big obstacle, right? When you get on campus, I always tell this story. I told this story to my husband. We were dating then. I think my first day on campus, I'm walking, minding my business, and somebody pulls up to me in a car and says, "Who claims you on this campus?" And I was like, "Who claims you?" Like, what does that even mean? And how dare you? And, I got all hostile and like upset. And that's just life there. You know what I mean? You face so many different things when you're on campus as a young student, either online, in person. Trust me, they just never stop. Can you share some of the challenges, Albie, from your perspective, the students face, and any tips on how we can overcome some of these struggles?
Yes. So I think that one of the challenges that most students face is identifying their priorities, right? Most students want to have it all. Okay, so they want to be able to excel in class. They still want to have a social life. They want to find that balance, right? But one thing that nobody tells people is that education is hard. Going to school is hard. It's like a full-time job. That's why when you have a degree, it is counted as work experience. Okay. And so nothing hard is done easily. So you have to let certain things go. You can't eat your cake and have it. I've shared this so many times that when I was a student, I had to change my priorities. Because if you are trying to excel, it's very important that you go to school, but it's most important that you know your course. Because as people who are possessing the nations, to be honest, some of us or some people have the degree, but they don't know their course.
Ah,
And so you hire them, you recommend them, and they go to the job market and then they are messing up because they don't know. They don't know. So if you are going to pay all this amount of money in tuition, money that could have been invested elsewhere to yield results, and you don't know, you have to be a master of your course. Like by the time you come out of school, you have to be able to know you have to be able to translate the theoretical aspects into practice such that you will be useful. Okay. And to be able to do that, you need to be able to concentrate. Some people need to stay away from relationships when they are in school. You know yourself, you know what your weaknesses are. Sometimes you need to be able to limit the number of friends you have. Other times you need to check your spending habits because you go out one night, you go to a party, you go and blow all the money that your parents have given you, and you have send them again for pocket money. It's not fair. So just being able to prioritize is very, very important, and know that the Bible says that there is a time and a season for everything. So when you are in school, I know there are so many things out there. People come from different backgrounds. People have cars as they are in school. Probably you don't have a car and then you are dreaming about the life that your friend has. That can be a challenge, right? So you spend all your time wishing that you were this person. You spend all your time wishing. Actually, there was this research that was conducted. My professor, together with some students, they did it. And it was a research about race, right? And so they interviewed a bunch of white students and they asked them, what would you rather choose? Being black or be losing one eye? And 90% of the students they interviewed chose losing one eye. People
Oh,
would rather lose one eye than to
wow.
be.
Mm,
So
mm,
I'm just trying. I brought this in to say that you are dealing with all of these people, right? And it's going to be very draining. So it's going to be a challenge, and it's a reality whether you like it or not. Veronica talked a lot about minority and all of that. It may seem like theory, but I'm telling you, you are going to experience it, right? You're going to experience people who will meet you for the first time and they don't even want to be your friend because they
yeah.
don't feel like anything good can come out of you. So
Yeah.
all of these outside noises are going to be there. So you have to put on a thick skin. Don't let the challenges call you. Don't like just know who you are and know that you are going there to excel, right? Know who God has made you. And as
Mm,
you meet the challenges, put on a thick skin because once you go to college, you are no longer a kid.
you're not.
You
Mm,
are being raised to face the outside world, and nobody is going to babysit you when you
Mm.
are in the job market. So I always tell people that once you are in college, you are not a kid anymore. So put on that big boy hat, put on that big girl hat, and face the challenges head on. Don't just say, I'm so depressed, and you are just laying in your bed. Yes, you are depressed. Get up and go to class depressed.
mm, mm.
Get up and go to the library
Straight up.
depressed. Don't just pamper yourself too much. Just know that it is for a season, right? And so you're going to face probably academic challenges, financial challenges. It may be a lot. Just tap into the resources that are available in school and then develop a thick skin and
Mm.
make sure that you are placing your priorities right, you are setting your priorities right, and know that once you're a student there are certain things. Bible says that all things are available to us, but some of them may not even benefit you.
Yeah.
So just write your goals as well. Have your goal. have
Yeah.
a have a goal and then work hard to achieve those goals. Look for like-minded people who also have goals that they are trying to achieve, and then shoot for the best. Right? All this while I've been a student, I've always wanted to be an A student. Not to say that I never got B's. I got B's in some of my courses, but I always start class knowing that I want an A, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
So yeah, the challenges are a lot. They are endless. But all I can say is that you are there for a reason, and so many people have done it, and you can do it. And God says that you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. If you feel overwhelmed and you are tired, ask for help. I remember
Mhm.
that there are days that I'll just call my mom and vent to her, and she would always say this one thing, and it will make me laugh and forget all my problems. Like those witches and wizard professors are bugging you again, eh? And I know it wasn't like anything, but it was therapy
Just,
to me. And
yeah.
anytime she said that, I just felt like a little girl. Yeah, I'm like, yeah, those wizards, they are bugging you with a lot of homework, but we'll laugh over it and then I'll go back to the library and study. Do your due diligence.
Mm.
Um,
Will
but
help
I
you.
love it. I love it. I mean, you guys are spitting out these nuggets and all that. Like, school is not easy. It doesn't matter what grade you are in, doesn't matter what level, it's not easy. Let me pull in Professor. Abby said a lot. Put on the thick skin. School is hard. So, what advice, or how do I say, what are some of the tools that, can you give us some of the tools that can help student, be excellent in the academics? Maximize their potential that we've talked about when it comes to the Pentacles. I love the men's slogan, maximizing your potential. But I love it so much. What are some of the keys that they can really maximize the giftings that they have and the potential that they have in school for excellence? Prof.
Okay. All right. So Abby have touched on a lot of things. She talked about, prioritizing, your goals, um, setting goals and then trying so hard to meet them. Time management is very important in school to every student's life, to even all of us, even being adult. It's very important to manage your time well. And I always say this too, sometimes, you are burnt out. As an individual, you're more likely to be burnt out. School is hard, it's a lot of work, it's stressful. And make sure you have that social support. Like you said, she had a mother to support her. If it's on campus, being part of, some social group that actually help you cope with your mental health per se. There are some services on campus that help you navigate if you're going through some tough time, like the counseling service and whatnot. A lot of services around, and it's on your syllabus. If you're a student, most of these, where to find them and contact and all that is on the syllabus. So make good use of it. And what I would also say, going back to what we discussed earlier on, the importance of, gaining visibility. If you get to school, the first day that you get to school, be intentional about where you want to go, right? Mentorship is very important. Some people come from households that they have parents who have gone through college and they are able to guide them how to navigate that space. Some people have not, they do not have that. You don't have parents that may possibly have been to college before, you're a first generation student to go to college. Take advantage of the resources that are available on campus. Talk to your professors. Hey, this is my situation. There are some events that goes on, that professors love to have, like for first generation students, whatnot. Some of these events, if you see it posted, in the hallway, take advantage of it. Attend, listen to it. Try to connect with your professors. Try to, introduce yourself. And like I said, there's always some form of resource that you may not know that they can direct you to, or they themselves can make it available to you. So I would say that students should pretty much take advantage of some of these things to make them, become successful as students. And also one thing I want to say is take advantage of seeking for like internships, going to school. Sometimes I always say this, for some reason, right? um for some reason, some of the white students are very smart when it comes to some of the resources that would help them get ahead. But when it comes to students like the black people like myself, most of them are so focused on, oh, I have a second job, I have this job, I need this, I need that. I'm like, you know what? The job that you are doing, if you can push this effort into maybe collaborating with a professor to do a little bit of research, you know that they can cover your tuition. You may be working three jobs because you want to pay for what? Your fee.
Your tuition.
How about looking at this opportunity instead, right? And we have these white students, they may be working with their professors, they are going for conferences. Um, Certain opportunities become available to them, like maybe going to grad school, meeting other professors from other places, getting scholarship to go to school becomes available to them because they take advantage of some of these opportunities. They try to connect to their professors, they work, they collaborate with them, and these doors naturally comes to them. But here lies the case that you think that you being a minority, you're trying to figure out everything on your own. You're working three jobs as a student to help yourself to, help fix your finances. But I tell you, sometimes you have to, know where to put those efforts, know where you can actually work hard. That will bring you something else. Other than all the time, it's just me. I'm trying to figure it out on my own. No. Sometimes, take advantage of some of these opportunities that could open doors for you.
No, I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's what a lot of the students, we don't do that when we're in school though, Veronica. And I'm sorry, just getting a little feedback on that. We don't do that when we're in school. I think because of what Brandon and Albie is saying, there's no sense of seriousness in prioritization. We're not willing to sacrifice anything. Listen, I want to be that student where I'm having fun, I'm eating out, but then I'm also getting straight A's. And then you have to realize you can't be all of those persons in one. It's impossible. Even some of us with husbands, wives, and kids, you got to cut certain activities. Sure, you can't be at every function. You can't be at every service. You can't be at every event. And that's just the reality. If you want to excel as a student, you can be a student and not excel, right? But I think it just depends. You can get by with the bare minimum. So I think it's really having that serious mindset, like Albie is saying, I'm coming in here to excel because God has called us to be excellent. So why would I want to be anything less? Because the degrees should yield something. I always tell my husband, thankfully, half of my education was on grants and scholarships, but the loans I have, I always tell myself, until I'm making the money, I am not paying Uncle Sam anything until it's equivalent to these degrees, because it doesn't make any sense. So whatever I'm doing, we have to put more into it. But Veronica, I'm going to come back to you because I hear all these resources, but at the same time, Albie shared such a powerful note in the beginning. Some of these professors give us anxiety. Right? They produce anxiety spiritually in these students. They make your life stressful. It's almost like they wake up and they come to work like, I'm going to make your life stressful today. Like, why? So I'm going to come back to you and how we navigate that, because Albie had a good point. She had that spirit of boldness, which God has called all of us to be bold, and spoke up for herself. But I think from a professor's perspective, we need some support there. But let me go to Brandon first, because Brandon, I feel like all of this really is why oftentimes we end up attaching ourselves with an organization of supreme, right? We want to be at the top on campus. We want favoritism and we want favor, but we don't seek that from God, right? We rather the fraternity association, the sorority association. Listen, like, I walk you clear the way, I go to class, professor, like, you better. You know what I mean? Like, you just have these thoughts in your head that with this association, doors will open. So I want to be very real for a second, because there are some students on here that are struggling with this path. And college is truly a place of transformation. Even you, Brandon, I mean, listening to your story is so beautiful. God has birthed the whole ministry through you, right? With this change in this aspect. But I want to be real for a second, because this does open doors of opportunity, right? I mean, if there's a senator that's the same sorority as you, you can get a job. I'm telling you, I mean, I know several people who have gotten in very, very high offices based on their fraternity and sororities. But Brandon, if you were going to advise me as a freshman, as a sophomore, and they definitely get you when you're a junior, because that's when reality sets in, like, how can I walk away from something that's so shiny and pretty and is promising me every single thing that I want on this earth to make life so easy for me, and you're telling me to walk away and denounce? Like, what is that journey? Like, how do anyone listening right now get that courage? Like, where did you find that strength from to be able to say, I stand for God, and that's the end of the story?
Let's see. So, wow. I would say, first things first, not everything that glitters is gold. I think that's a really big aspect here. And then also, like, a quote that I heard that really changed my outlook. I don't even know when I heard this, if it was before or after I left the organization, but I saw a video and the person said, I feel like nowadays a lot of Christians are sitting here seeking with their whole heart the things that Jesus rejected in the wilderness when the devil tempted him. And it was just so true. And I feel like a lot of that comes with these organizations. It's wanting to feel like you're more than what you currently see yourself as. You want others to view you well and hold you in high regard. And I would say, very honestly, you can get internships, you can get connections with these organizations. For example, this is even I even feel like this connection was by the grace of God. Even though it was, I'll just explain the story. I was I was working as a snow cone vendor at a football game, and that job I did secure through a fraternity brother. And while I was there, I met, this random little boy came up and I asked him, "Oh, do you want to go to UVA when you grow up?" which is my school. And he was like, "Yeah." And then I was just making like nice, polite conversation as I was serving him. And then his mom came up and said, "Oh, you go here?" I said, "Yes." And we were talking and she was like, "What do you want to do?" I said, "I'm pre-med." And she said, "Oh, well, I actually happen to be a surgeon here. So if you would like, come and you could come and watch me perform. And that way you can have shadowing hours." And so it's like, all that to say, I believe that there are ways that you can get put out there, but something that we don't realize is that if God wanted to give you an opportunity, he would do so anyway. I think we don't realize that these organizations aren't the only way. Like, God might have something far better for you that you're just not opening your eyes to because you feel like you can get it from something tangible, something finite, when there's an eternal God who's looking out for you, trying to give you good gifts. If you see that scripture that says, if a bad father can give good gifts, then what shall your heavenly Father then? And so I would then say, with denouncing and walking away, I'll be honest, it was not by my strength. And like, we say that and like we know that, but like to really experience it and see it meant so much. Like, I remember I had my letter ready. It was ready to post. It sat in my Google Docs, my Google Drive. So I didn't want to publicly do anything. I then was just talking to my sister, and she said, "I read this part in a book, and it was talking about how this person had a really hard decision, and once she realized that it wasn't her walking alone, but that God was the one walking before her, and that she would never be alone in it, that changed everything." And once she said that, I went to my phone and I posted the letter. And so it's really like leaning into that knowledge that when things are really hard, you don't have to walk this road alone. You don't have to be the three men in the fire. God is there with you. So it's just leaning into knowing that he's there to carry you to the destination that he wants you to be at. But yeah.
Amen. And Justina, I mean, that, Brandon, that's that purpose, right? Understanding what God has called you on here. But I think, and this is why it's so important, I want to pull a comment from the chat that just came in from Frank. But it's so real, because when you're in school, it's so hard to navigate when you don't go in with a plan and a purpose. You know what I mean? We just kind of go in and we don't have a plan. We don't have a purpose. We just know that we're supposed to go to college. So many young people are in college right now, don't know what they're going to do. Don't even have a major declared, right? We're just almost just dropped there, and then you're trying to navigate. So it's so easy, Brendan, to what you're saying, to feel like I want to do these things. And then you start leading instead of following the Lord's steps and letting him walking into your purpose. You know, Frank said in a corporate life, you are paid to meet expectations, and you are promoted when you exceed expectations. And the reason I wanted to pull that in is because it's so important. If we would just apply ourselves, do all these different things that Veronica has shared with us, that Albie has told us, that Brandon has shown us, that if you try to take another route, you're only going to come back to where you started. I remember in my freshman year, my professor gave us a reading course to read several chapters, guys. And you know, the old me normally would just skim, read the back, and be like, okay, I'm ready for the exam. But this time, you know what? I'm going to read word by word all these chapters that professor gave us to read. And guys, I'm telling you, no lie, I went there and I was like, I know the answers to this exam. I was just like, check, and I passed everything. And that's the moment I realized that this intelligence that we speak of, this knowledge is God has put it in us. We just need to apply ourselves. And there's no shortcut. There is no shortcut. But I will say, Brandon, I think the reason why fraternity life, sorority life is so appealing is because, again, the life is hard and it's stressful. So, Veronica, I'm going to come back to you and I'm going to go to Albie because I'm telling you, these professors, I'm speaking on behalf of all students. Because
You're still
I am still a student, so I feel the pain. You meet some professors, and like I'm still on this A minus. I know my professor when we first started our program. She said, some of you are going to be high maintenance students. When you get an A minus, you're crying and you're upset. It's fine, and I'm like, it's not fine because you could have just gave me 1 point for my effort to just pull me up. And it's like they just don't want to do it. You know what I mean? And it's like no matter what you do, you just feel like there's that one professor that has a target on your back and is just trying to pull you down. And I think for me, I realized prayer was the key because I wasn't praying. I was just kind of studying, going to school, studying. But then I realized some of these are spiritual attacks. Some of these professors are demonic. They were sent to delay you. So you got to pray, guys. But Victoria, you got to come to me because you're a professor. Because Albie had that spirit of boldness and went there. Like, how can I navigate a professor that I feel like, number one, is really coming for me? Because some of you can tell me you don't meet a student and it's just like, you're not coming for them. Some of these professors, you read the paper. This is a good paper. Albie, you know what I mean? You turn in that work and you're like, this is good. And then you see the grade and you're like, nah, this is not the grade that I was supposed to get. But like, how can you navigate this? I don't want to hear, about like going to the student centers because we've done that. I'm talking about the professor that's persistent on my.
When you are talking out of like really passionate.
I'm so mad about my
experience,
No, a student, so she just.
And me, I'm the one that will go back later after I pass and find colors and honors, and I'll write my professor a letter and say, thank you so much for believing in me. I graduated in excellence. But Veronica, like, how do I navigate this professor? Like, how do I deal with them? I can't ignore them. They control a part of my destiny. Like, can I go and report it to the dean? Can I change classes? Like, what do I do without it being more problematic for me? Because a lot of times we don't do anything because we don't want more problems. So like, how can I, without letting the professor lose their job, we're Christian folk, but how can we handle it in a nice, godly way?
Okay. Have you also thought about it this way that you might not be meeting the expectation of that particular
No. So let me ask my question again. So this is expectations that I'm meeting and exceeding. And the professor is just mean. I don't know what their problem is, but like, how do I deal with those professors? I'm meeting and exceeding expectation.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I would say that even me myself, being a student, or speak from being once a student and also in the position as a professor, I have had those experiences with some professors who just have just put on this face like, I'm tough, I'm hard, I'm not easy to penetrate through. We especially when it comes to the female professors, the female professors, it's hard to be a professor. We have student also abusers and bullies.
Hey, from there.
Oh yes. Students bully us as well. They want to get away with certain things, and all that. And if it's not happening, sometimes they feel like, they can bully you or. So yeah. I can understand some professors have this, put up this face. I remember my chair, Dr. Erickson. She's tough, even her appearance, seeing her and talking to her seems so tough. And then you go like, but she's like, Veronica, I had to do this because when I started off, these kids were just bullying. So I had to put up a face. I have to appear strong. I have to appear stand and tough. And then, gradually, when you come close, you realize that, oh no, Dr. Erickson is a very sweet person. Yeah. So sometimes they just have the face. They just have that face of being tough. I have also been there to make things sometimes hard for the student, and then when they pull closer, they notice that, oh, she is easy and very, easygoing person, because
Mhm.
sometimes it's necessary. Got stubborn, we got some stubborn students, and some of them, the household and whatnot that they are coming from, they just cross the boundaries. So if you are
Right.
not careful, you'll just disappoint. And like you said, if you experience professors like that, just walk to them, right? And I always say that talk to them, we are human as well. Talk to them, whatever it is that you are going through. Oh, this is what is happening to me. And as a result, maybe I'm not able to do well in this class, this test, because of what and what I've been going through. And sometimes they're human enough to bend the rules for you, right? But if you're not speaking up with regards to whatever you're going through, they're it's gonna be the same standard for everybody.
Mhm.
But whereby you go to them, talk to them, that this is my situation. How can you help me? You know, and yes, they are there to help you. They are there to, make life easier for you. And like I always say, I always tell my students, I don't walk around having F's in my pocket. I
Hmm.
don't have F's in my
Hmm.
pocket ready to say to everybody. No, I don't do that. I'm not that mean, but just go to them and talk to them about whatever you're going through. And they're
Okay.
human, talk to them, oh, I'm having this anxiety. It's been tough for me. I'm having
Okay.
this financial difficulties, emotional difficulties. I have had students coming to sit, you know, come to me and tell them that they're having, relationship breakup and all that. And so it's actually impacting their productivity and all that. So just talk to
Mhm.
them. We are humans and we would understand. Yeah.
I think that did it for me. I'm gonna let Albie come in because she looked like she got something to say. But Veronica, that was awesome because I actually did not think my professor was a human. So if you say that they're human, I take your word for it, sis, and I believe you because I swear that woman was not. I mean, it's just one point. Like you could have given me a point for just showing up on Zoom. But anyway, Albie, I know you got something to say, so I'm gonna let you come in. And then Albie, I also want to know how you journeyed yourself to kind of confront your professor and stand up for yourself and claim your voice because we struggle with that. But like Veronica just gave us some great tips as well. So over to you.
Okay. So I think that I said it in the beginning that I've had an all-rounded educational journey that has given me a 360 perspective, right? So I have experienced professors who are genuinely interested in your success. And I have experienced professors who are not human and they are not interested in you succeeding. Listen, I had a professor say in the University of Akron that what did she say? This department is turning too brown. It's
Hey.
becoming too brown. Do you know what that means? Like the black students are just too much. I mean, what are you going to use to convince me that such a person is interested in my success?
Or is even
Wow.
human? You're not human.
She is not. And like, who do you even think you are
Yeah.
to say that? So when you meet such people, please, guys, if you were students, do not be afraid to talk. Okay, put away all the shyness, put away all the fear. And if we are parents and we are siblings and we have people that we are mentoring, literally push them to be able to advocate for themselves.
Mm.
Luckily for me, I've always been that person who will talk because that's how I was raised. That's how my dad raised me. Like, we don't keep quiet in this house. So I've always been that loud mouth wherever I find myself, right? And so I will not let you put me down. When I did my first master's, this professor she kept giving me bad grades. And to your point, Patty, I knew that I deserved more. But at the same time, I did not know how to go about it. But it got to a point like one time she graded my work and I knew that I had had it. I was like, if I don't say something, I know this woman is going to fail me and I will not fail this class. Because, and you only get this boldness when you have paid your dues. And you
Yeah.
have a good story. So as I was bold, I was going to class always.
Yeah.
So there is no way she can say that I'm not a serious student because I've also been a TA. So one of the most annoying things is having a student who doesn't show up in class come to complain. You are not even in class. When
Yeah.
we take the attendance, you are not there. So you don't have any leverage. But if you
Mhm.
are in class and you are doing your homework and you are
Mhm.
turning them in, then at that point, they don't have the strength over you again because they
Yeah.
know that if that translates to other classes, right? Remember earlier we said that when you are writing your story, it's so that other people can also speak about you, right? So
Yes.
when worst comes to worst and it has to go to the dean, they will definitely consult other professors whose classes you are taking. And if they
Yep.
don't have anything bad to say about you, then you have a case. So one time I was there and then I was new, like this was my first, no, maybe first or second semester in the US, like my first educational journey. I just sent an email and I know that email was not even courteous, but I just poured my heart out and I told her that, hey, I am a serious student. In fact, I am an A student. Go ask my other professors. I wish I could pull the email, but I don't even have access to it again.
Right.
6 years ago. And she responded and she told me I was rude. And I was like, okay, can I get a meeting? And she said yes. And then when I went to her office, I told her that I'm not rude, but I'm just frustrated about how you are treating me because this is my first semester in the program. If you have something against me, if you have any correction,
Yeah.
tell me. Don't just be giving me bad grades because I know that I
Yeah.
have put in my best. And listen, I did not fail that class.
Mm.
I did not fail, but if I had shut my mouth, I
Mm.
am promising you, I would have failed the class. So don't be afraid to speak. I told her point blank that I am an A student. Go ask my other professors, and they would give a good testimony about me. So that's one part. And then I have also experienced amazing professors who are
Professors.
interested in your success.
Yes.
When I was writing my thesis committee, I could text my professors at 12 a.m. and they would respond. And
Mm.
then I would always show gratitude. And one time, my professor, Dr. Jen Gab, she was like, you know what? It's so easy to mentor you because
Mm.
you actually show up and do the work. You're not
Mm.
like the other students who are not doing the work and then they are always complaining. So I was like, oh, yeah.
They're
And
working.
the glory of God, I can say that when I was leaving UNC Charlotte, I could literally close my eyes and have like 7 letters of recommendation.
Wow.
Mhm.
I did
Amazing.
not even ask for. Like at UNC, I did a lot of stuff. Like I didn't just go to school and then because I have seen professors who have treated people really badly. So when I was going, I was there. One of my aims was to have influence as a student. Yes, like I wanted to be influential. So it
Mhm.
translated in the way I carried myself, it translated in the way I dressed, it translated in the way I gave contributions in class, it translated in the way I even approached my professors outside of class. I just wanted to present myself as this girl who knows exactly what she is about. And having experienced both sides, I can say that if you keep quiet, you are not going to achieve anything. People will just trample over you. We are in a world where you have to speak up. God has given us the spirit of boldness, and you need to make you good use of it. And when the going gets tough, go and pray and ask God to help you, ask God to favor you, because God can actually do it. But do your due diligence. Go to class, do your homework on time. If there is any reason why you cannot submit your homework on time, let your professors know.
Yep.
Humans, some of them are humans, and they will actually understand.
Some are humans, trust me. I
Some
mean,
are humans, and they will actually understand. I have met amazing people, and so I know that people who are not just interested in you going to school, right, but interested in you succeeding. People
succeeding.
who will tell you that it's okay, you can bring your baby to class. It's
Oh,
fine.
yeah,
Yes. Oh
yeah.
yeah. So when I was pregnant, one of my professors told me that whenever you are tired, just rest. Don't come to
I had
class.
something. I had
Yeah,
a
don't
great
come to
professor.
class.
Yeah.
Yes, and this is a male professor, and he could understand me because he told me his story one day. He was like, "My wife and I struggled so much to have a baby." And as he was telling me his story, he was actually shedding tears. So he
Oh,
said that ever since then, after all the failed IVFs, we managed to get one child,
Mm.
and we never even had the courage to attempt it. So I can tell you, Albie, that this school is important, but this baby you are carrying is more important. So take care of
mm,
yourself and do things. Just turn in your work as and
Yeah,
when you are able to, right? But I don't think he would have given me this pass if he didn't think I was a serious student or he
right,
didn't think I was putting in enough effort. So
right.
don't just pray to God, put in the effort. School is hard work. We've already talked about that. So make
yeah.
sure that you work hard and God will definitely reward you and He will cause people to be there for you and make sure that you succeed.
Oh my
Amen.
God. You bring so much memories about school and being a wife, being a mother. I don't want to go there. We only have 3 minutes. Listen, I mean, we have great professors. I had amazing professors, and I had, of course, not so much amazing professors, undergrad and grad school. So school is hard. Just put in the work. Brandon, we have 3 minutes, but I'm just going to give you 1 minute and then we'll wrap up and end. Just give me why a lot has been said, and then at the end of the day, without God there's nothing. There's really nothing that you can do, whether as a student or whether as a professor. So Brendan, just quick, what do you think that these kids run to this Greek life instead of God? Just very quick. I just want to know. So, why did they run to these sororities instead of God? Like you did mention, you had a turning point, but some of these kids are not really seeing the light that you have seen. Just right quick, and then we'll end with just 1 minute. What do you think they are running to this Greek God instead of the mighty God that we have?
Wow. Um, Honestly, I would say it's because of the same issue that even when we look in the Bible, the Israelites faced throughout all of the Old Testament. And a big example I like to think of is the book of Judges. In Judges, we see that God has to basically erect a group of people to essentially lead the Israelites because even though the entire time God was telling Moses, God was telling Joshua, and all these other figures that if these people just regarded me as their king,
Mm,
they would never fall into pits. And so since they wouldn't do so, God would have to bring up these figures to then lead them. And to translate it to what we see now, it's because we don't have confidence in God. I think that's generally just the root of what it is. We believe, yes, we feel something when we pray sometimes. We like to worship sometimes it's too long. It's because we truly aren't making God sovereign in our life. I think
mm,
something that was really big that a scripture said was that you can call God, you can title him as God, but there's a difference between titling him and making him God in your life. And so for me, after I joined this organization, I was like, okay, I'm ready to really give time to the Lord. I started like in services, and whenever I could, I would just sing these songs and say, "Oh Lord, I'm available to you. God, use me however you see fit." And all these things. And at some point, it stopped being, I need to go to my pastor to access God. and it started being, let me just access God in my quiet time. And so when I started accessing God, when I started making him God in my own life, when I started revering him as the king that he is, he started revealing things back to me. And I think that's really where I guess I try to tell students to go. I will never, I try never to tell a student, leave your organization, don't pursue this organization. I just say, do the due diligence of praying about it. Because when I was joining, I joined without God and thought that he would come along later. And now I realize that was a major mistake. So I'm not going to try to change their heart because that's never been my job. The most I could do is plant a seed and let God grow it. But yeah.
Amen.
Amen.
Brandon, you will keep us going on, Justina, because after that I have like 20 things.
No.
Time. But I do want to go in the chat real quick. Somebody said, great point, Brandon, and awesome information from Doc as well. Veronica, I personally want you to be my professor for all my classes. So we'll talk because I want you to be my personal professor. But no, that was amazing.
This has been amazing. God bless you guys. God bless you, Brandon. I'll be on the I host now. Good information, Professor. God bless you. And I wish I'm now going to college. So all these knowledge that I have attained, I'll really put into practice. But thank God, college is over for me. Anyway,
it's never too late.
PhD is next.
No, God bless you. God bless you. Just a quick announcement. So we have a praise and worship night coming this Saturday from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. at 5024 Freedom Drive. It's going to be amazing. I mean, I'm going to be singing. I can't wait to sing, and that's all that I do. No, why do we have Pensacola? I'm going to be singing. So please come join us. Just worship. Pensacola conference was over a long time ago. Come, let's worship God together. It's going to be amazing. Bring your dancing shoe. If you're in the North Carolina, if you're in the area, bring your dancing shoe. And our season ends today. I just want to take a minute and send a shout out to all my hosts. Patty, Albie, Sinclair's on vacation. Let us. But anyway, thank you very much to our host, our director, Deacon Justice, producer, my own husband, of course, Kosia Payne. Honey. Our district youth and Pensa leader, Edda Justice Champon. God bless you all, our team, Edda Frank, everybody who has been great success in 3 months. We just want to say thank you. Our panelists, our viewers, God bless you for making this season a success. And we'll be back. We'll be back in October. So whilst we are away, please keep us in your prayers. Keep us in your prayers. And it has been amazing. Let me say it has been amazing. God bless you all. God bless you. We are so grateful. We are so grateful. And as
I don't know why you forgot to thank my husband, but I thank my husband. I don't know why she thanked her husband. I forgot to thank my husband, but it's okay. I'll let you wrap up. Bye.
Great minds, come let us reason together. Great minds, we are open to reality. Oh, we want no more, we are hungry for more. We are curious, always searching for the truth. Great minds, come let us reason